Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much. And what a panel of heroes, the best and the bravest and the brightest. Thank you for being here and bearing witness to a very ugly truth as to what Hong Kong is doing. It has been a long, hot summer in Hong Kong, as we all know. The inspiring and courageous protests there are a daily reminder of the stark differences between free and authoritarian societies. The people of Hong Kong have shown the world that a free people will not accept the boot of repression without protest. The millions of Hong Kong protesters have also done the world a great service. They have exposed Beijing's plan to erode freedoms guaranteed to the people of Hong Kong by international treaty. They have exposed Beijing's pernicious and repressive behavior. And make no doubt about it, the Chinese government is both uniquely repressive and incredibly paranoid about maintaining its grip on power. Today, there are over 1 million Uyghurs interned in Orwellian political education camps. Human rights lawyers have disappeared and been horribly tortured in detention. Christians, Tibetans, and labor activists and journalists as well face egregious abuse in the most intrusive system of surveillance operating in the world today. Why would anyone want their political fate determined by Beijing? If given a choice, no one would. As inspiring as the protests have been, they have also raised serious concerns about the actions of the Hong Kong and Chinese Communist government. The violence and the use of force perpetrated against the protesters by thugs and police, I repeat myself, is extremely alarming. Representative McGovern and I were the first members of Congress to call on the Trump administration to suspend the sale of tear gas, rubber bullets, pepper spray, and other crowd control equipment to the Hong Kong police. And I agree with him. We need to quickly pass the PROTECT Act that we introduced last week. Also alarming are the repeated and irresponsible threats of intervention made by Chinese officials, particularly given that this year marks the 30th anniversary of the Tiananmen Square massacre. The Hong Kong and Chinese governments are alone responsible for the grievance expressed by the protesters, and they alone can peacefully end the protests by addressing the demands for universal suffrage and investigation of police threats. Blaming the United States government and blaming the U.S. Congress for the protests is an act of cowardly propaganda and not befitting of a nation such as China, which has aspirations of global leadership. It is time for the U.S. policy to respond to Beijing's long-term ambitions in the Hong Kong and pass the Hong Kong Human Rights and Democracy Act. 5 years ago, Mr. Chairman, I introduced the Hong Kong Human Rights and Democracy Act with my CEC co-chair, Senator Brown. The bill allows for a more robust U.S. response to the steady erosion of Hong Kong's autonomy and human rights. Over the years, Senator Rubio and I have upgraded the bill, and you as well, to reflect the kidnapping of booksellers, the disqualification of elected lawmakers, the political prosecutions of Joshua Wong, Nathan Law, Benny Tai, and others. However, every single time we pushed for passage, there was opposition from the diplomats, the so-called experts, the committee chairs in both the House and the Senate, and the American Chamber of Commerce in Hong Kong. We were told not to upset the status quo. We were told that upgrading U.S. policy would undermine their efforts with Beijing and its hand-selected political leaders in Hong Kong. We were told that our bill would cost U.S. businesses. It is the exact same advice that we have been hearing on China since Tiananmen Square. And the big issue was then MFN. China experts have failed the American people, and their advice helped to gut parts of our own economy. Their advice this time will fail the people of Hong Kong as well. Specifically, Mr. Chairman, as you know, the bill directs the Secretary of State to certify to Congress annually whether Hong Kong continues to deserve special treatment under U.S. law from mainland China, that is different from mainland China, in such matters as trade, customs, sanctions enforcement, law enforcement cooperation, and protection of human rights and the rule of law. It directs the State Department not to deny entry visas based on an applicant's arrest or detention for participating in nonviolent protest activities in Hong Kong. It requires an annual report from the Commerce Department on whether the Hong Kong government adequately enforces U.S. export controls and sanctions laws. It requires the Secretary of State to submit a strategy to Congress to protect U.S. citizens and businesses in Hong Kong from the erosion of autonomy and the rule of law because of actions taken by the Chinese Communist government. Requires the President to identify and sanction persons in Hong Kong or in mainland China responsible for the erosion of Hong Kong's autonomy and serious abuses of human rights. We have wide agreement for this legislation. It is time that it passed. I've heard it said that the business of Hong Kong is business. I believe it's clear that the business of Hong Kong is freedom. The people of Hong Kong are working to protect the rights and rule of law that are the foundation of the city's prosperity and unique vitality. This commission and so many of our colleagues in both the House and the Senate stand united with the people of Hong Kong and will not be silent in the face of threats to their continued liberties, guaranteed liberties, and way of life. The U.S. and the international community cannot be silent or just make noise with nothing that backs it up. The whole world has a stake in a peaceful and just resolution of Hong Kong's and the survival of the one country, two systems model. Hong Kong people, ya yo. Yield back.
Thank you.